Thanks for having me. I mean, you kind of nailed it. Fletch PMM, we're a product marketing consultancy that focuses exclusively on positioning. You've probably seen our stuff on LinkedIn where we try and be as open as possible, sharing our frameworks about how we approach positioning and the impacts that it has on go-to-market and things like advertising.
Alrighty, great. Let's move on to the roast. So we'll cover three parts. First is why do we feel B2B ads? I'm sure you would have come across B2B is boring to boring. Why are they really boring, and why do they fail to convert?
Yeah.
And we tear down some of the ads. I mean, some are static, some are videos. What works, what burns money, and some key takeaways. Let's start with the first one, Rob, with you. Oh, why do you think people say B2B is boring?
Well, contextually, I think it just is in general. Like we're talking about tools that help us run businesses. And so the nature of them is they're not inherently sexy, right? We're not selling fashion, new clothes, experiences, right? We're building and selling things that are more of these foundational things in these professional environments. And so like it kind of comes with the territory. I think, and then when you tie into that and like you think about how people just behave in those ecosystems of like when you have a job, people talk about being professional, right? And like not saying anything, that's going to insult anybody. And there's a lot of rules that are in play. And so whenever you're in those circumstances, what tends to happen is from a language standpoint, when people try and communicate in those environments, you end up with pretty stale, stodgy, safe stuff, which gets really tricky to be safe, especially at a time when there's more vendors than ever. And so like standing out with safe doesn't really work, on top of the fact of like, even if you look at it through the consumer lens, like we're hit with so many messages that these safe things, they're not entertaining, people ignore them. And if you're not willing to have a bit of a sharp edge in the way that you approach it, like it's just going to come across as boring. And so like context in itself is boring. The application in those contexts tends to be boring, and it's pretty easy to fall into the trap of just being safe with how you advertise.
I was just counting how many times you said the word safe. It was 6 times. And can't reinforce that. And
Yep.
most decision makers who are running ads or who are running like creatives or marketing, they feel that, hey, can I be safe? Then like regret whatever like bold thing I'm trying to do. And I think if most marketers also look out for what B2C guys are doing, and probably I feel that B2B guys are always trying to play the catch up game in terms of creativity.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think yeah, you're right. You if you're dealing with serious people, doing serious stuff.
Yep.
Great. We'll
And I
start with
guess
the
to tie
first
into this
ad.
too is like there's a fear of, oh yeah, go for it.
No, go on, go on.
I was gonna say there's this fear sometimes that this comes with the safe territory, but I guess we see this more in our positioning work. Is there's a reluctance to actually ignore part of the market, and part of the ignoring, those are probably the part of the market you might even pick on to a degree. So in other words, there'll be some opportunities for companies from a positioning and then ultimately an advertising standpoint to take a pretty hard stance, and really say some things of like, if you believe this, you're not a fit, and like, like kind of poking fun at the other side. But everyone's afraid to do that. They're like, no, I don't want to, they might someday be a customer. And so there's this combination in advertising and standing out and being safe is like, are you willing to focus on the people that might actually love you rather than trying to make everybody somewhat happy, which like you're going to piss off some people on the other end. That's usually a good thing because then you get the conversation going across like the spectrum of what the whole market could look like.
Cool. Good. Let's look at the first ad. This is a Billboard ad. And this is by LinkedIn. Just for full disclosure, I mean, we none of us have anything against the brand. We are just trying to learn what we could change. It's more like educational than the typical roast format. But yeah, over to you, Rob. Would you take a look at this ad, or would you miss it?
It's there's a couple things I think they're doing well. So like finding your next hire should be as easy as finding an AI billboard in the Bay Area. So to me, one of the things I like about this is like making this relatable. I know the AI billboards are constantly being made fun of and punished, I think in a good way. And so like tapping into that to be like, oh, it's a funny take. I think they have a bit of the entertainment and the standout piece. The other thing I like is they're actually explaining, what the product might do, which for us from a clarity standpoint is there. So as far as billboards go, I put it more on the good rather than bad. And then what's the bottom left say? Discover the right talent faster with LinkedIn. Okay, yeah, I'm kind of redundant there. So yeah, large billboard tells you what it does, has a little bit of humor. Assuming this is also in the Bay Area, it's probably doing a half decent job in my mind.
Cool. I mean, I normally see whenever most B2B ads will have like 5 features and CTA and logo overload. I think this one keeps it like one idea, one line, no clutter.
Or the opposite, right? Like if we were to rewrite this for the AI Bay Area billboard, it would say something like "Your people powered with AI," and it's like, well, what are we talking about? So at least they get a little bit of clarity in here, and they're saying something.
This is like a master class, huh? Let's look at the next one. This one is a video ad. We'll just talk after watching this ad.
Dear Diary, another day of hearing everyone talking about MCP and pretending I understand what it means. I am so confused. I haven't sniffed a leaf in weeks.
What are you doing? Just come to my workshop next week. I'll teach you about MCP and you can start from scratch. You should come too.
What do you think about this?
I'll show you. Guess who he is. I like the concept. I worry a little bit about the execution of this. Just from an entertainment, like a 30-second clip. Are people going to stick around to watch the whole thing? I think there's an opportunity for it to be a little bit punchier and probably shorter. Like they're trying to be funny and entertaining. Oh, I'm a dog. I don't know what the hell an MCP is. Like, that's great. They probably could have just got right to the crux of it. The other thing and this is maybe more of a personal thing, is like when it's like, when you could feel that it's overly like salesy in a way, like kind of corny of like, oh, the whole you should come too. I tend to check out a little bit. I was like, it's like this year, not sure what the heck MCP is and why it changed the way you work or even where to start. This probably has too many ideas in here as the following thing. To me, I think just really leading into like, no one knows what the hell an ICP or an MCP is. I probably would have just cut it there, where it's just pure problem awareness, and then link to the workshop. Like, are you as dumbfounded as everybody else? Join us Thursday. Like, short and sweet.
I really liked how this, at least the hook was more like a pattern interrupt. I mean, especially when you're scrolling through LinkedIn, you'll never see dog videos. So at least it makes me pause the scroll. But yeah, I think the value is like 30 seconds after pausing the scroll. So most likely I'll miss that value.
Yeah. And I think they got caught between entertainment scroll stop and making too many points of like educating on the problem, putting awareness on it. And then they talked about the workshop too long and too much. I think it would have been better almost like all problem. No one knows what the heck it is. And then like really pushing on that to some other stupid things people do related to the dog and all that. But mixing it in with kind of the extended seconds. I felt like if there was a few seconds in there where I'm just like, okay, clearly I've seen the funny part, I think, and I would probably swipe through halfway.
This one seems like a McKinsey slide, but would you click on this?
Spring hell. Save 16 hours per template. Datacom. Code approval times. Yeah. My first thing here is like, probably not a chance. So, when you think about even like, I'm thinking of this through the scroll. I'm on LinkedIn. 16 hours, 3 to 5 hours, 30x. Those are the big numbers. But then that's not how this actually gets read. Like these things, they're like, I'm not going to read save per template, save per request, efficiency increase. I actually come to that later. It's like, okay, I see logo, I see numbers, and then I go to the bottom from wasted hours to instant impact. I still don't know what the heck we're talking about in this point. The other thing that, and maybe I'm just not in the market for this, but the other thing is like, I don't know who Spring Health is. I don't know who Datacom is. And so those references of like companies are like, I'm not even interested because I've never even heard of these companies. And then if I do actually then spend the time to read it, cut approval times. I don't know. Approval times of what? See what your team's going to achieve with centralized brand management hub. Then they introduce this category. And that's probably one of the last things I'm going to read. Centralized brand management hub. Don't know what that is. I'm not even sure what the approvals are. And so this to me is an example of we are at an altitude that is way too broad. We are almost delivering the sales benefits after you've convinced someone that they need a centralized brand management hub of what they could achieve to this, but we're doing it in a way where we're not meeting the people like where they're at, because most people aren't going to know what that is and what the context is here. And so I think it's a pretty big miss all the way around.
Mm. I feel as a user, I got to do a lot of work in my head to understand at least the numbers part. There's so many numbers. If I were to change something, I would probably pick one metric and like dramatize that or maybe personify that, as opposed to showing like so many numbers.
Yeah. And to me, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit, but it's like the questions I have, because there's two ways to look at this. One, do I know what a brand management hub is? So let's assume that I do know what it is. When you just hit me with metrics and these other logos, like you're not even landing on, hey, you should choose our brand management hub because it has these types of savings. Like it's sort of flipped. Like you're missing the sharp edge of this. And then if we come at this through the lens of, well, I don't know what a centralized brand management hub is. You're talking about this process of approval times and hours saved per template. What are we even talking about? Approval times of what? What templates? Like there is no context to orient me at all. And so this is like, there's details in here with nothing's connecting it into the world of someone who might be scrolling. Like nobody's out there like, man, I wish I wasn't spending 60 like time on templates. Like that's much more specific. Like we gotta get into their world. And that's what I think. It's like there's open questions on like, who the heck is this even for?
Would you change that? Would you put like the category first or probably the ICP first, that hey, this is, I mean, just to point it is for you?
Yeah, and it really depends on who you're focusing in on the ad, but 100%, right? Like even if I would like rewrite the text, and again, I know nothing about this other than their little brand management hub thing, I would probably like have like brand managers, I bet you're spending X hours doing, this specific workflow. Like there's a better way, right? Like even that a little bit at least brings me into their domain. Or if they are in category, I want to feel some contrast of like, hey, you're using this brand management hub. I bet you still have to do all these clicks. That's stupid. We think there's a better way. So absolutely, like bringing in those reference points and like the more specific you can make it, the better. But obviously me shooting from the hip, I'm not even sure exactly what this product does. So it's hard to find like what those sharp examples could be.
Next one is, I'll put on the full ads. Yeah. Which ad would you are you likely to click first?
All right. Your goals, your work. Asana helps you prioritize work. Killer brands here for sure. All of these here, like on first glance, they just feel like, make sure our logo is seen, trusted by millions, get work done, focus on your team, not the to-do list.
In my head, when I first
the Asana and ClickUp ones, like go ahead.
When I saw all three of them at once, I felt all three of them are decent. That's the problem, actually. I mean, they all look like really good. And probably I can't pick one over the other, like at the first glance.
Yeah. For me, like when I see the first two, your goals, your work, get work done type stuff, it's so abstract that there's nothing in here that really like pulls me in. There's nothing overly entertaining. There's nothing that's really turning the knife on like, oh, this is my situation. This is like, it's like almost credibility ads of like, yeah, we're big, we work with millions of people. Like, great, but you're not. Like, who's actually clicking on this? I have no idea. These feel like misclicks. Monday.com is like, at least to some degree, is starting to frame this as like, there's an issue here that can be solved. Like, we are trying to get you out of this busy work. Stop spending all this time with your to-do list. But again, it's also quite abstract. I mean, they are talking to managers, but of the three ads, I think the Monday.com is getting closer to like, if I was a manager, maybe you're catching me at a moment where it's like, oh, I just had a day where it's like, I feel like I ignored my whole team. I didn't get anything done. I had this big list. It's still not done, where maybe this resonates. But I think the devil, again, is going to be in the details here. And like all three for me just don't go specific enough. These feel mostly just like hey, big logos doing big things. Remember our company name related to tasks, related to project, related to work.
Sometimes I feel if you are a big logo or well-known brand in your category, you have that the margin to make mistakes, and your ad might still perform as well as if you created a better ad. Would you agree?
I don't know about, I can't speak to the performance. Like that's not our domain. And when you say mistakes, I think there's leeway to do things that other companies that don't have recognition need to do. So in other words, like I look at these ads, this is more so just to remind you like, oh yeah, Asana, ClickUp, and Monday.com are still around. And I think it assumes that people already know what they are and who they are, what they're for. And I'd be really curious on how they're thinking about the targeting on the back end. Like, are they going after people that are already using these tools and just trying to drive forward? Like, oh yeah, we need consistent usage of this. I need to make sure my team's still in here. Like, this might be useful for that. Of like, hey, don't forget about it. You have this really powerful tool here. For what it does in terms of acquisition, I would really question that. I can't imagine someone who's never heard of ClickUp coming in here and being like, oh, I can get my work done. Learn more. Like they call it the everything app. It's like, I don't know. I don't know if anyone actually clicks that where they're like really excited. I could do everything in here. I don't think there's enough meat on it for somebody to actually resonate.
I think I'm able to connect dots. I mean, some of your previous posts where you say that, hey, when you're small, be specific, and when you grow bigger and bigger, you are allowed to become more generic. I mean, I was reading one of your posts or Anthony's posts in the past. That I think that's holds true for something like this too, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's like I would still argue, even in those cases, like if I'm looking at like Asana's, if I'm Asana doing these ads, rather than running a blanket ad that says you've got a lot on your plate, do the work that matters, your goals, your work, and blasting that to, I don't know what their target is, blasting that to 10 million people, I think you're far better off going and segmenting to 10 groups of 1 million people and having an ad that speaks to the type of work that they might actually be doing. And they mimic this even on their website, all their use cases, industries. Those are the ads that have a chance where like you could think about the ad written specifically for the Asana users of software development managers, right? Where the whole ad is like, hey, your sprint truly organized. Everyone knows what they're doing. Stand-ups are a breeze, right? Instead of this generic, like prioritizing based on a goal, annual planning. It's like, but what are we planning? I think they'd be far better off spending that money that way than the global piece. But you're right, they get away with it because they're larger and they have the budget to spend. So who cares? But I think it could be much more effective if they allocated it more specifically.
Let's go to the next one. This one is a metaphor ad. Let's see.
The year is 1996. It is springtime at the North and South Korean border. Private Yoon is extremely allergic to bees. In hindsight, mixing Grenade Belt Tuesday with Fancy Dress Week wasn't the safest idea to begin with. But one thing led to another, and there we go. If it weren't for a lone paperclip sitting there on the ground, who knows what would have happened? Legend has it, it was a cinch paperclip. The legend is correct.
So this one was actually
See that one go.
ad run by Runway. So Runway has
By Runway.
Yeah, so Runway is the AI video. They have different LLMs to do different things for video, and I think they're running a competition to submit your ad.
Yeah. So the questions I have here, and again, we don't know, so we have to make some assumptions, is like, where is this going to run? Where are people going to see this? In other words, like, do I have to click to get this thing? Obviously, it wasn't set up for like social. So I see it as like, it seems like YouTube style, but like even if I imagine this just commercial wise, assuming that like, all right, people will actually kind of be forced to listen and watch this. What I like about it is it's actually quite entertaining. It's like, it's like interesting kind of nugget the way it's in. There's this contrast of sort of not this taboo, but it's kind of this non-boring thing of like, oh, there's kind of some intrigue here. And then it's sort of funny and silly of like, oh, our paper clips are strong enough to, not let a grenade go off and to keep two countries from, killing each other. And so there's something like rogue about it where I will probably remember this. And so like they win for entertainment, they win for attention. I think the where it gets deployed is really going to matter here, because that video, just posted on a site or running ads to it. Again, I don't know enough about like video ad style advertising. Just like, is it even going to be listened to or watched? But overall, pretty effective, if you ask me.
Let's look at the next one. This one is by Intercom.
Yep.
Finn knows fintech. What do you think? This one shows a product. Yeah, it shows a product, but
Yeah.
kind of overwhelms me because it's too busy.
Overwhelms you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I love that they're showing the product. I love that they're showing like how it's even actually going to be used. Because like I found myself even asking some very similar questions to this inside of chat and such. I think the headline to me is on is the thing that throws me the most. We know fintech. I'm not sure I would have put even like tax implications on withdrawals as like knowing fintech. And then I start to ask the question of like, who's this for? Like I'm trying to figure out like, wait, is this for a company? Is this for a fintech company that then is trying to figure out their own tax implications, or is this for a fintech company that has to answer questions about tax implications? There's a little bit of confusion there overall of like, who are we even targeting for this ad because of the broader message? But the visual and the way they're showing it, that they're showing the product, I quite like, because it feels really real and usable. Yeah, I think if they fix the header for me, I think it gets a lot better.
I think we look at the last one because we are very close to the 25-minute mark.
Okay.
This one is your post, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think maybe you can take us through.
Not an ad.
Not an ad. Maybe
Sort of.
more education side.
Not an ad. But it's funny. This is kind of how our ads read, right? Like the way we think about advertising on LinkedIn, because we posted this, is like we do a lot of education. So we're able to kind of tuck a lot of things in here as we educate.
I lost your audio, but
Product marketing. Got you. Am I still with you now?
yeah.
Okay. But this concept, this is very much how we approach positioning, and really even how we even think through what the core marketing messages should be that you would end up getting into an advertisement. And so the way we see it, this is like a segmentation exercise in a lot of ways of like, who are we even trying to talk to so that we know how to talk to them? And so this first level, we call it immature markets. We think about this as trapped energy, where we would actually speak to this outcome that people would love to achieve, but they can't achieve it. There's like things that are blocking it, but they're not actually putting energy into achieving the outcome. They're more just these passive desires that sort of sit under the hood. And so an example of this we think of is Duolingo. And Duolingo talked a lot about this in their customer acquisition, especially in the early days. Like, who were they going after? They were going after the people that didn't think learning a new language was even possible, right? And from a positioning standpoint, there's this temptation to be like, well, when it comes to learning a language, you could, travel to the country, you could hire a teacher, you could take a course, all these things. That wasn't what the segment they were actually targeting was doing. And so saying that wouldn't have made sense. Instead, they approached it as like, hey, learning a language is finally accessible beyond what you thought, right? So they're actually competing more with this inaction. So again, that's immature markets. Think of it as like trapped or potential energy. Or then we move into emerging markets. And again, following this analogy of energy, people are putting time and effort into something, into some job to be done. And so we look at like Vanta when they launched, they were focused more on people who were doing these SOC 2 compliance audits. They were doing this activity. Energy was going into that workflow, right? That kinetic energy. And so Vanta, from a messaging standpoint, had to really tap into that and say, look, you're trying to do these compliance audits. they're freaking terrible. They're time consuming. They require manual binders. You got to interface with a bunch of people, and there's no actual guarantee that you'll actually get approved. We have a better way to do this, where they basically bring some automations and checklists and really like pre-approved ways of doing it into the process for them. That's even better than consultants as well. And so that's how they frame the whole argument from an advertising, meeting them where they're at. And then there's these third types of markets, and these are very mature markets where it's more about stealing energy from others in a lot of ways. Like energy into the job and into buying the products is already happening. And you're trying to convince them, hey, can we divert some of that energy into our product? And this is where you label it specifically, right? So going back to that like brand management category approach, like if the thesis is they're going after people who already buy these brand management style platforms, the whole idea of messaging is somehow spotlighting, here's how that your current brand management platform is broken and why ours is better. And you'll see this a lot, especially in consumer markets, because most of them are mature, where you're basically just trying to convince people like, oh yeah, buy our running shoe and not somebody else's. Buy our CRM and not somebody else's, right? You're not trying to get people to do things they've never done before. You're not trying to tap into their workflow and saying, hey, there's a better way. You're just saying, look, you have this tool that you're already invested in. Here's where it falls down and where ours gets better. And so we take this lens whenever we're building out positioning strategies, and we think they align directly into how you'd even reach them in your marketing efforts and being consistent about the approach with these different strategies.
Would you, so if somebody does not identify themselves as the current market, you're saying they'll give the wrong messaging to the world, is it? I mean,
For sure.
What
So
are
take my business, for
which
example.
can happen if you don't segment correctly?
It's mixing the strategies, right? And I think we saw that in a lot of the advertising of like, who's this even for? So if we take like my business, for example, we call ourselves, we're a positioning consultancy, but we don't position as like, we're the best positioning consultancy, because what we find is that the market for positioning consultancies and positioning agencies is actually quite immature and quite small, right? There's not a lot of people that are consistently buying those types of services. They're not really aware of it. And so we have to position more for what we would call an emerging market, where there are a lot of people putting energy into solving positioning challenges, repositioning the company, sharpening positioning, developing a positioning strategy. So we position there and we're like, hey, look, you're trying to do this thing, but the ways you're doing it are really falling down. You're trying to do it in-house, but you don't have the experience. Maybe you've delegated some stuff to ChatGPT, but that didn't really work. Where we're like, hey, no, there's a better way. And we have this sprint process that we're trying to introduce, and that framing makes sense. And so if you think about even like our LinkedIn posts and our version of advertising, if we were coming out and we're like, hey, we're the only, positioning consultancy that does X, people would be like, well, look, okay, I don't shop for, I don't have one of those agencies. We'd be talking to a group of people that isn't that big of a group of people, and it's not the people we're targeting. We're actually trying to pull people into this emerging category more than anything. And so the mistake is mixing the message, right? If I use one more example, let's say we were trying to sell a CRM and we're like, oh, we're a better Salesforce. We're like a modern Salesforce. If I go to a group and say, look, Salesforce is garbage, you should use our product, I'm in that mature category and I'm positioning against Salesforce. If I go to a group of people who doesn't have a CRM and I say, look, most CRMs are terrible, you're going to love ours, it's better, they're going to be like, what's a CRM? I don't get it. And so we just have to be super mindful of the awareness level of the category that we're even advertising in through the lens of the audience. And those are just completely different messages, completely different advertisements, completely different strategies.
Super duper. I think we'll end the show, Rob, for now. I think I've just gone through half of my slides, but probably have you again some other time and read the other half. I'd like to thank you for taking out time for something like this. If people would want to learn more about Fletch PMM or would like to get in touch with you, what's the best way?
Yeah, thanks. Well, first off, thanks for having me. This was fun to do, kind of different of like, well, how does positioning, what does it show up downstream in these advertisements? FletchPMM.com is a good place to reach us. We just started a newsletter. There's a link there, or LinkedIn is also a good path to follow either Anthony or myself.
Lovely. I'll put the link to your newsletter as a comment to this event. So if people want to get in touch with you, that'll be a good idea.
Amazing. Thanks again,
Thank you
man.
so much.
Until next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Cheers.